Hey everybody, I'm Greg Soul, and this is Why Am I? A podcast where I find interesting people and try and trace a path to how they actually got to be where they are now. Today's guest is Johnno Wilson. He's a super chill actor, comedian, writer, and not nearly frequent enough podcast co-host. His laid-back positivity is just the thing we all need right now. Probably it doesn't matter when you're listening to this, to be honest. Before I get too far, I want to remind you that you should check the Patreon feed because there's a bonus episode every week or every time I put one of these out where I take the guests to the fantasy restaurant where I ask them what their favorite drink, appetizer, main side, and desserts are, and hilarity generally ensues. So at any rate, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Johnno. Hey everybody, this is Greg and welcome to the Why Am I podcast. Today I have special guest Johnno Wilson.
What's up, Greg? How you doing?
Oh, I am so pleased to have you here.
I am happy to be here.
So I want to tell a quick story about how I found you, and then
Sure.
And then I want you to describe yourself a little bit. So I have been watching a lot of basketball, right? We just did March Madness, all that stuff, and so they have about 8 to 10 commercials that are on loop nonstop. So you can almost quote them by the end of it. And one of them is this AT&T commercial. When I was Googling for it to figure out who was in it, I looked up AT&T standoff commercial, and that's that was like the first result.
The duel.
Yeah. And it basically intros where a guy walks in and he wants a good deal on his phone, and then he's a new customer, and an existing customer walks up and he says he wants the same deal, and you ware that existing customer. And I don't know what it was, but I was like, dude, I would love to talk to that guy. So I did a little research, hunted you down, and you were kind enough to talk to me today. So the world is a random series of events, is it not?
It sure is. It sure is. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's like, this is like the first commercial that I've been in that's actually running on national television. And it's like, I just feel so lucky because they started running it so much. Oh, yeah. And whenever you shoot something, you really never know if it's going to ever be on television. You never know if it's ever going to get really made. It'll get made, but who knows if it goes into, gets to people's screens. And so like I shot it right before Christmas. I was very excited to go home and see my family after that. And I was like, but let's just, temper our expectations because they may scrap it. It's happened to me before. And then, my buddy was watching a NBA game and texted me and was like, there you are, so I was like, all right, nice. It's running. And then they ran it a bunch. And now actually, as of yesterday, they started running a new iteration of it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because in this first one, I say I want the fastest 5G network, and I guess AT&T had to change that as of like April 5th because AT&T will be mad at me for saying this, but I think now T-Mobile technically has the fastest 5G network, so they couldn't use that anymore. So they brought me in to do a voiceover where I say nationwide 5G instead of fastest 5G network. And I had said that in one of the other takes when we filmed, but they were like, no, we like your delivery of this other lines. We want to keep the first half of it, and then you do a voiceover on the second half. And then they computer generate my mouth so that it looks like I'm saying nationwide 5G. Yeah. It's like,
that's crazy.
That much goes into a commercial?
I guess when it's got that big a distribution, I guess it does, man.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. So I used to give like an introduction on some of the background of a person, but I don't know, man. I prefer to you do it now, because I don't want to put my my thoughts on you. I don't want to put my expectations. So I say, if you're in Starbucks, you're standing in line, you strike up a conversation with a guy, and he says that he's a postman or whatever. He's a mailman, and it's your turn to reciprocate. How do you describe yourself?
Well, it's so funny because this happens often. And like, I think that the life path that I chose is a pretty, not many people go for, becoming an actor. And so I have to tell this story a lot. especially because my path has been kind of different. I grew up in Massachusetts, and growing up, my buddies and I, I've done like impressions and stuff since I was a little kid. My mother, after college, had tried to be an actor for a little bit in New York, and she did some soap operas and commercials and had a small part in a little known Sylvester Stallone movie, which is about like the truck unions and Jimmy Hoffa, and it was called Fist. And because of that, I was like, loved Sylvester Stallone. So when I was like 8 years old, I loved to draw, and I was like drawing cartoons of Sylvester Stallone, like doing his face and everything. And so like I was doing that when I was little, and my friends would make me teachers growing up. And my good buddy in like the 6th grade, I remember we'd carpool to school together, and he was like, when we grow up, I'm going to be your writer and you're going to be on SNL. And I was like, yeah, for sure. I can do an impression of every one of our teachers, and we would make short films and stuff. And then I went to high school, didn't do theater or anything. I played football and lacrosse, and tried to get good grades. And I ended up going to Georgetown University, which is very academically focused. And so I went through school. I did some stuff with the television station. I had like a Late Night with Johnno was the name of a TV show I had there. And had another show with one of my buddies, and messed around with it, but I never really thought of it as being an actual life path. Right. So I took a job consulting in DC, and was disillusioned pretty quickly, although I loved the people I worked with. And I asked an acting teacher I had at Georgetown in one class that I took in acting, how can I do stuff locally? And I started doing some local things. I'm actually one of the stars of the sexual harassment training for the Army. Ooh. I'm not sure if they're still using that, but yeah, I didn't tell anybody at the consulting firm at which I was working that I was doing this stuff on the side. And so I just came in one day with like a shaved head. They're like, what's going on with Johnno? It's like, nothing. I just thought a haircut would do me well. They're like, it's February in DC. It's freezing. But as this stuff was going on, my best friend from the 6th grade, who was like, we're going to be on SNL together, had moved out with some of his buddies who we went to college with. And he was like, listen, we're out here. We're trying to be screenwriters. Like, you have a good education under your belt. Why don't you give it a couple years and go for it? And I thought about it, and I talked to my parents and family about it, and they were like, yeah, you should definitely do this. We were never going to say you should do it with your life, but if you ever got there on your own, we fully support it.
Oh,
so
man, that's killer.
That was huge. That was huge. I don't think many people are lucky enough to have families that are like, yeah, go, live in squalor while you, go for your dreams. It's like, that's not a real world thing. But then I moved out to LA, and I lived on my buddy's couch with 2 of our other good friends, and lived on the couch for 8 months or something. And it's like one thing to come to LA and be like, I think I'm pretty funny. I want to be an actor. I want to be a comedic actor. And then you get here, and that's a huge decision to make. And then when you get here, it's like, what the hell do I do now? It's like, how do I meet a casting director? How do I get an agent? It's so nebulous, and it's like, it's a tough thing to break into. But I do think like sticking around, I've been in LA now for 10 years, sticking around and just pushing through everything has really, really been huge for my whole life, And now I'm finally on an AT&T commercial.
I made it, Mom. No, I totally get it. So when you were talking about being a kid doing impressions and stuff, were you the class clown? Is that kind of how that went, or were you just?
I was always pretty well behaved. Like I really prided myself on the fact that like I could make jokes in class, and like the kids would laugh, but like the teacher would also kind of think it was funny. So I wasn't like disrupting the class too much. Sometimes I may have gotten in a little bit of trouble, but for the most part, I was a pretty good kid, I'd say.
Where does that come from? Was that like, was your dad really funny? Was your mom funny? Or you just?
Yeah. My dad and mom are both funny in their own ways. Like my mom is definitely more of a performer, and my dad is very clever. Like he'll always be able to figure out a pun in whatever situation we're in, but he's very quick and clever. And then my mom is much more of the performance person.
Gotcha. And that, I guess, when you do stuff like that, kind of helps you stand out a little bit, and you think, man, I would probably want to do that some more, huh?
Yeah, I think there's also at the end of college, it was a really tough decision to work at this consulting firm because everybody I knew was getting a job. They were either going to New York and working in finance, or they were working in politics in DC. And, my good friend's little brother had a band at Georgetown, and they would have me perform with them sometimes. I would rap, rap and I remember doing one performance where I'm rapping and everybody in the bar is going crazy, and I ripped my shirt off and I was like, yeah, and I was like, this is the greatest feeling ever. And I was like, what? How can I give myself the chance to just experience a rush like that and make an audience excited but at the same time, it's you think to yourself, let's be reasonable about this. How many people actually find any success in the entertainment industry, But a guy I worked with at the consulting firm, after my boss told the office that that's what I was going to do, one of these guys, he was a principal at the company. He came over to me and he was like, so Johnno, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 26. And he was like, listen, I think this is a great thing that you're doing. When I was 26, I had a full-time job. I quit. I went off with a band. We toured for 3 years. I didn't really put in the work that I should have, and it didn't end up working out. So I stopped, but look at me now. I'm doing fine. So go for it. And I was like, that is so reassuring.
And the fact that guy would go out of his way to come and tell you that.
Seriously. George Lane, great dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have much of a relationship with him?
No, just really, a work relationship. I think we had we shared one account together maybe. So, we would travel every now and then to meet with our clients, and it was about their health and benefits plans. So it was odd.
Yeah, I was curious. I was curious because that seems like a pretty big departure from everything I don't know, just kind of your spirit, your essence, and then you're going to go and be a consultant I tried to do a little research on what they did. The company,
Mercer?
Mercer.
Yeah.
It's a big company. They pull in a lot of revenue, but it sounded excruciatingly boring.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. It's funny because I was always pretty good at math growing up, and I got good grades in school, and so I had on paper, I got an interview. I could get an interview, but I ended up getting an offer from this consulting firm, which felt like when I met with them, the people there were cool and fun and younger, and then I also had an offer from a trading firm in New York, and it was it's just tough to get out of the mindset of this is the way that life is supposed to be.
Right.
Life isn't supposed to be anyway. Life is whatever you make of it, But yeah, at the time I had a girlfriend who was going to work at the White House the next year, and my younger brother was going to be a freshman at Georgetown. So there were a lot of things that helped me to make the decision, the safe decision, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like if you're kind of a middle-class kid in the U.S., it's that's your trajectory, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to school, get good grades, and then go get a job, and then, grind your nose against the stone for 30 years or whatever and get out of there.
Yeah, and I guess, and honestly, that's total privilege in that respect, that I had the decision, to be you know what? I could make this amount of money per year and probably be pretty successful, but I'm going to go for my dreams. It's how lucky am I, Yeah. That's not lost on me that I'm extremely lucky.
Well, I choose to regret nothing, right? It's, if I've done something in the past that it informs my decisions in the future, right? So Sometimes it just takes me a little bit longer to get to where I need to be, but I don't know,
Sure.
man. Like when I was sacking groceries or whatever as a kid, I still use those skills I picked up then. So
Totally.
no experience is wasted, right?
No, not at all. I think that's a great way of looking at life too. It's like everything you do is going to inform the next thing you do, as long as you're cognizant of that, you know?
Yeah. So a lot of what I'm hearing already is that you are extremely fearless, or perhaps there's a part of your brain that doesn't function right. 'Cause it's like, you know, like if you're going to be up like at a bar rapping in front of like people rip your shirt off, there's some amount of fearlessness associated with that. It's like, where the hell does that come from, and how do I get some of it?
Dude, honestly, it's so funny because after I decided to move to LA, and, you know, the first couple years that I was here, like my mom had found a journal I kept in the first grade, and literally on the first page of it was, when I grow up, I want to live in Los Angeles and be an actor. I want to live in Los Angeles because it's sunny and that's where all the acting jobs are. It's like, as a 6-year-old, this is like, so that was like ingrained in my mind from the beginning. And also, like, again, like soon after I moved out here, I was home and we were watching like videos of when my brother and I were really little. And like my parents the whole time were just saying like, you are the smartest, funniest kid I've ever met. It's like just constant like reassurance, and like they just built my confidence since the day I was born. And when we were watching it, my parents were like, geez, we were really nice to you. It's like they had forgotten. They were like, God, so that's why you have this confidence. You're welcome. You know?
Your jokes really weren't landing. I don't know why we were telling you this.
Right? That wasn't even funny. That wasn't funny or cute. And look at how nice it's being.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people I talk to that are so confident. Yeah. I mean, they had people in their corner the whole time. And that's phenomenal, man. Yeah. That's really good. Even, I still meet a lot of people that had people in their corner and, you know, it takes them a lot. You know, it takes a lot of work.
I mean, listen, it's not like I walk out every day and I'm like, I'm going to crush this day. Like, that's definitely not the case. I mean, there were, you know, I moved out here when I was almost 27, and at the time my parents had moved to London, and I was Skyping with them on my 27th birthday and just bawling, being like, what am I doing? Why'd you let me do this? What am I doing? You know? And I definitely, like, once every like 4 months, I have like a day or a couple days where I'm like, everything sucks. Everything sucks. What am I doing? What's the point of this? What, you know, and I've just kind of come to the conclusion that it's like, well, this is what I'm going to do with my life, and the good outweighs the bad, and I've chosen a different life that I feel like I'm supposed to be living. So, you know, have a couple down days and then deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, something I've realized is that, you know, like I'll have like a shitty day or whatever, you know, like where I don't feel like doing anything, and then, you know, the next day I'll have some kind of a win that happened or whatever. But it's so funny because that win, everything was precipitated like a month in advance when I started working on something, you know. So it's like, you know, it's just like consistent work is what gets you there, and you can have good days and bad days, but just knowing that, you know, every day putting in a little bit of work matters. It helps me kind of like knock those lows off a little bit, you know.
Well, totally.
It just takes time.
Yeah, you're not gonna, you know, if you're doing work in one day, you're not gonna see a result that comes right at the end of doing that work. Like, it really is things that are precipitating for a really long time. Like, so as long as you can in some way like enjoy the work or know that it's for some purpose, and it's not wasted time, then you just need to keep putting it in, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. What was your favorite parts about university? I mean, did you do anything that kind of broke you out and you think informed you as the person you would become?
You know, I don't know if there was like a moment that really informed the person that I'd become, but, you know, I made really great friends who are still my good friends today. I was talking to my good buddy Mike Mahar this morning, actually, right before we got on the podcast. And one event that really does stick out in my head, though, is I studied abroad in Paris for 6 months. And I lived with a Parisian family. So, I had my room in their apartment in Neuilly-sur-Seine, and they could not speak any English. They had a son at the time who was my age. We were both 21, and he could speak English, but they were told not to speak English in the house. So, like, if we ever got stuck, like the father of the family and I got stuck, like Guillaume, the kid who was my age, would be like, this is what you're trying to say to each other, But for the most part, just learning French. And also during that time, I met some of my best friends when I was there who actually were also students at Georgetown, but I hadn't known them until I was studying abroad. While I was there, it was the spring of 2006. And I got there. They gave us like 2 weeks to, meet the family and get comfortable. And then I started classes at the Sorbonne. And we had like a week of classes. And then all the students went on strike because there was a labor law that was being passed that like basically said you could be fired anything within your first 5 years of work. And it didn't used to be like that. And all the students were like, we're not going to class. We are not going. And all of the teachers were like, well, then we are not teaching. And I didn't have class until May. So it was like just 5 months in Paris, like doing whatever traveling around Europe. Like it was crazy, but it also like, it was really, it probably helped me to make the decision to move to LA and not be scared of just like going out on my own and trusting that I'd be able to handle myself and take care of myself.
Because you're in a strange place and you don't know anybody, and
I don't speak the language that well.
Well, I mean, because like in university, you studied English, Lit, and French, right? That was your thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was taking French since the 7th grade. So, and then my senior year, I was taking French with, again, my best buddy with whom I ended up moving out to LA with, who was like, we're going to be on SNL together. And we had like tested out of the French at high school. So the two of us would leave school and go to a local college, and we took French there, which then gave me enough credits at Georgetown that it was like I had to take a couple classes to get the French minor. And I was like, yeah, what the hell?
Why not?
And, like just like I said on my 27th birthday when I was bawling to my parents saying, why'd you let me do this? When we were on the way to the airport to go to France, I was like, why am I not just going to Ireland where they speak the same language? Like, what am I doing? And they were like, well, here's your flight. Have fun, Yeah, I think like putting, as we're talking, I'm realizing like putting yourself in uncomfortable positions is just an opportunity for some kinds, I guess.
Yeah. I've noticed anytime in life when I'm growing or experiencing growth, I'm uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. If I'm comfortable, I'm not being challenged in any kind of way, and seldom do I get anything out of it. It's really when there's some pain there, some discomfort at least. Yeah,
you hear it all the time, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah, but it's like against human nature, right? It's like we run away from pain towards pleasure all the time.
Totally.
That's what we're always doing. So
totally.
Any particular hair-raising events you got yourself into when you were in France? Did you ever almost get yourself in trouble?
God, I'm sure I did.
Any near misses? My life seems like a lot of near misses.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I could look back at my life and be like, I could have died at any number of these times. Like one little thing happens, and it's kind of like you kind of have to say, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be here because anything can happen any day. I mean, I when I got to France, I didn't realize that rollerblading is totally still a thing there.
Oh,
like everybody's roller. Yeah. Oh yeah. At least, well, listen, this was,
2006,
13 years ago or whatever. But, yeah, like I joined a gym, and I remember coming out of the gym one day and there were hundreds of people going down the street on rollerblades. And I was like, what is happening? And someone told me that they did this, every Friday, like when it was getting nice out, they would start a rollerblading session for 30 kilometers through the city. And they would all meet in this one place, and then you just go on a different route through the city. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I talked to my host family, and there's some was like, I have a pair of rollerblades, but I never use them. And I was like, may I? And he was like, yeah. And I just started rollerblading all over Paris for the time I was there. I'd pop in my iPod at the time and just zip around that city listening to like, I think I was really big into Jack Johnson at that time. And so I was like, I'm sure there are many times when I almost got sideswiped by one of the buses that just does not give a shit where you're going, you know? So I'm sure I had some near misses there. And then like, you know, just nights out partying. And, you know, we had a night where we were going on spring break and we were going to go to Italy. And like, we basically had to spend a night in, it wasn't like the whole night, but, you know, we got into Milan really late. And then we're basically like, we don't have another train for 4 hours. So we have to hang in the airport all night. It's like, you could get mugged so easily. Like, we're just like drinking out of bottles of wine. It's like, that's not safe. So I'm sure I can't think of one right now, but those are just two examples of when things could have gone very awry.
Do you still keep in touch with anybody over there?
You know, I do. I have sent Facebook messages with the kid who at the time was 11, and on Fridays I'd give him English lessons. And so we've Facebook messaged a few times here and there. And my parents, when they were living in London right before I moved out to LA, were in Paris, and they went out to dinner with my host father. He was in town. The host mother was out of town, but my parents went out to dinner with him, and so they were a great family.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
So what was the catalyst? I mean, I know I'm jumping around in time. I'm sorry about that. That's kind of the way my brain works. It's awful. Like when you were telling me about rollerblading, I was picturing you like wearing short shorts and a tank top, like it was the 1960s. Like, and you're at a roller disc or 70s.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate. Like my friends had one of my friends was her family had a place in the United States and a place in Paris because they were from Paris, and so we would hang out at their spot, which was like so awesome. And then we'd all just sleep there some nights, and so I'd like wear jeans and a t-shirt like what I was gonna wear when I was hanging out, but I would just roll the jeans up like to my knees, and I'm just like rollerblading. And I was wearing like elbow pads and like hand pads and like had a backpack on. So funny. Like the host mother would always be like, she really acted like a mother to me. I got like, oh, here's one time I went to on spring break with my friends from Georgetown who came over, so we all went to Spain, and I got like the worst sore throat I'd ever had in my life. I was so sick at the end of the trip, and I was like, I'm just straight up gonna die. Like I've never felt this bad in my life. And when I got back, the host mother like had the doctor come over to the apartment. It was like a Sunday night, like checked me out, gave her some prescriptions, and I woke up in the morning and she like knocked on my door and came in with soup, and she had filled all my prescriptions and like took care of me. And like my mom talked to her after and was like, you don't know how much this means to me to know that he's safe, you know?
Man, dude, it sounds like you got a really tight family.
Yeah, I do. They're great. They've been very good to me. And my brother is definitely my best friend, you know?
That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, very lucky. Very lucky. You know, I mean, we're 4 years apart, but he, you know, so growing up, it was like there seemed to be more of a age gap between us, really more when we were younger. And then when he was getting into like middle school even, but like we never really fought. It was never like older brother, I think. You know, that's not really in my nature. It wasn't like older brother beating up on the younger brother, you know. We were always friends with our cousins and like that. And then when he started making friends and getting into middle school and everything, those friends like became my friends, and my friends became his friends. And
that's cool.
Yeah, when I was still in DC and he was at Georgetown, we hung out all the time. It was great.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So fast forward a little bit, you're in your job at Mercer. And so you said you started kind of feeling the itch, like this isn't for me, and maybe there's something else. And so you obviously knew, like, kind of, the acting sort of thing was something that was calling to you, I guess. And what was the straw that broke the camel's back, man, that made you decide to just go for it?
It was like two things. It was I broke up with my girlfriend first.
All right.
And we had been together for 3 years out of college, which at that point, everything's relative. And I was like, how did this happen? I thought we were going to get married,
Yeah.
So that makes you be pretty introspective about, all right, what do I really want to do? And I tried a bunch of different things. Like I took the GMATs to go to business school. I took the LSATs to go to law school, but nothing really felt like it was what I wanted to do. And then I reached out to this acting teacher that I had at Georgetown, Professor Marshall, and I was like, how could I do things locally? And she sent me like a website, and I got a headshot, and I just started submitting to some stuff. And I booked everything that I auditioned for. It was like 6 things in a row, and I booked every single one of them. And I was doing like a little play about Mae West in a 40-person theater in Washington, D.C. But I was like, this is so cool. I have to go to rehearsal? Whoa, that's awesome, And because of that, I had a conversation with my buddy, Pete Wood, and he was like, listen, you're booking everything you're going out for. This is something we've always talked about. I'm out in LA now. You have me, my 2 buddies from college. You'll love them. Live on the couch. Like, let's just see. And that was really the moment in my mind where I was like, yeah, what the hell? What do I have to lose?
So you were definitely, there was going to be a change one way or the other. And you were just trying to figure out what that change was. So when you did, like, was there apprehension when you started, like, first putting your name out there to try and get bookings or whatever? Like, were you a little bit nervous, or were you just like, or were you just like, man, I'm just going to see what happens?
I was like, I'm just going to see what happens. I also started taking classes with the Washington Improv Theater. And, that's another thing where it's like, I feel lucky that I really dipped my toe in the water in terms of doing stuff locally in DC, and then also doing the Washington Improv Theater, because it was like I would leave from work, I'd go to class, and I remember like just like little things would happen. I felt like I was doing well in the class. I got improv. I got the yes and stuff. Yeah. I understood it, and I was being funny, and I wasn't like trying to push, I was like, and I remember we had like our class show, and I did that. And afterwards I remember going on the website, and like the picture on the website was me and a girl from our class show doing a scene. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Right. And, in my mind growing up with my parents saying like, you're the best, I was like, they chose that because it was probably the best scene, like, so like the little ego part in me was like, you're doing it, man. You can do this. You're good at this, so it's just like all these little things that were percolating at the same time.
That's cool.
That made me say like, yeah, I can do this.
And so it was definitely like, I don't know, man. Like, I've heard people describe it different ways, but say in that first Mae West play that you're doing, like, what was the feeling when you were in it? Like, I've heard some people describe it as like being in the zone, or I like to say it's like feeling like you're on top of a wave, like when you're just in the middle of it or whatever. I mean, is that kind of the feeling it would give you? Or
I think doing the improv shows was more, I think, exhilarating in that way. The play was like it was a small play. I was playing like the one of the loves of Mae West's life, and then another guy who was like her manager or something. I can't really remember, but I just thought it was really cool that I had to memorize lines and like try to act on a stage. It was just a really fun, enjoyable thing for me. And like, God bless them, all my friends, the people I worked with at Mercer actually came to the play. It was like everyone was really supportive and cool about it. And I think that also made me think, yeah, people support me making this decision too. I'm not totally crazy. Right. I'm not the person on American Idol who shows up and says, all my friends say I'm a good singer, and then they're not good.
Right.
You know?
Good for all the wrong reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So improv is really where it's at for you then.
Yeah.
Because it's the challenge of, I have no idea what's about to come out of somebody's mouth, and can I react fast enough to keep this thing going?
Yeah, and I think it also helps with acting because you have to listen. You have to listen and respond, and you don't have to be funny every single time.
Right.
You know, you're going to get a suggestion that's a little wacky and you go to a crazy place, but like, you don't have to make some funny joke to the audience. You just have to listen and respond. And when you do that in acting too, it makes you a better actor. Like, and like you said, doing that work, I took classes at the Groundlings.
Yes, you did.
And I ended up doing their Sunday company, and you know, spending $450 on a class when I'm a caddy at LA Country Club and am not making any money and am overdrawn, you know, $2,000 and have all this debt and everything, and being like, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life. But like doing those classes and hitting a wall, I swear to God, every single class I was in, there was a point where I'd say, maybe I'm not funny. Maybe I don't get it. But sticking with it and eventually getting to the other side and being so much better off for it, I'd be like, oh, I do get it. You know, it's like, again, being in an uncomfortable position, but like pushing through it, you know, led to more and more, you know, great stuff.
But that feels, that almost gives me some semi-anxiety over here. Just like the idea of, you know, like in a class where you're supposed to be, you know, spur of the moment, you're supposed to be creative. And, you know, to me, I feel like a lot of that is just through training, right? I mean, I guess there's some gifted individuals that can naturally do that stuff, but a lot of it's like training your brain to be able to do that, right? And I guess as that process goes, it's tough.
It's funny that you say train your brain, because it's like you're almost training your brain to untrain your brain. Because the whole thing is get rid of the filter, get rid of the logic in your head that says, oh, I need to put all these puzzle pieces together. It's like, trust your brain, trust that if you listen, and as simple as it is, yes, and it'll move the thing forward, and you'll come to the place. Don't rush. And I swear to God, like, learning that has helped me in so many situations to like stay in your lane, don't push in so many different ways, don't push for it, and it'll eventually come if you're just like doing your thing.
I know I watched this YouTube video, or maybe it was a TED Talk. I know how much people love TED Talks, but it was about like improv. And so they were given like this, no, I don't think it was a TED Talk. It's just this guy giving some, like, maybe it was like a Stanford guy. I digress. He was talking about improv and one of the exercises he likes doing. And so it was this thing where he's like, for, I don't know, 5 minutes every day, just point at random objects and say a word that is not that thing.
That's so funny.
And it was like, the first time I tried to do it, it was so incredibly hard. And so I did this thing where I started like naming everything. I just started naming foods, and I watched a little bit more of the video, and he's like, you're going to start with patterns. Don't do patterns. He's like, you're going to start like naming everything like a dog or an animal, you know. It's like, I was like, crap, he's right. It's like, so it's like, it's like training to untrain your brain. And like, that is just, that kind of broke me for a little while. It was just so, it's so incredibly hard to do.
It sounds like such a simple thing to do.
It is impossible because you're fighting your biology. Your brain wants to, wants to say exactly what the thing is, but it's impossible.
You want to make everything fit. But you can't. Yeah. The best stuff comes out as things that don't fit.
So I started doing that when I would go for walks. I would like point at random stuff. But then I think, now add an audience. Now add pressure of your other actors. And it becomes so much more infinite. And then on top of that, you're actually trying to be funny along with it. That is like, my God, you guys are like daredevils to me. You might as well be Evel Knievel.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people say it's like the scariest thing in the world, and it can be, for sure. It can be. But during that time when I was starting to take those classes, I also found a group of people who I became really close with, and started doing shows on a team at, again, a 40-person black box theater called the Neon Venus. And then it became more of like the community started to build, and we became friends. And then like doing it for each other wasn't as scary.
Right.
And so then when you're in front of an audience that you don't know, it's not quite as scary, and you learn to trust each other and trust that like things will work out. And if it's not working out, someone from the back wall is going to come in and save your ass.
That's killer. Yeah. It's so funny. I'm by no means anywhere near that, but it's just going through exercises like that have helped me in a lot of different areas of my life. Like, I
bet.
Like at this point now, after 20 years of being like an IT guy, I'm in sales, and I feel like I've retired. Like, you mean all I have to do is just talk to people for a living? This is incredible. This is the most amazing thing ever. But I'll be doing like a demonstration, and there'll be like another technical guy with me, and then after that, he's like, "Man, you did so great under all the pressure." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, people were like asking you these questions, and you were having to pivot." And I was like, "Dude, that's the fun part. It's like not knowing what somebody's gonna say and being able to, vamp on the spot." I was like, I love that.
Yeah,
and it's so funny that like to most of these guys I work with, that is like their nightmare. You know what I mean? It's totally the scariest thing ever.
I'm sure the pointing at random stuff and saying what it's not has helped with that too.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's almost like, so they say like gamblers have what they call it, like the gambler's loop, where whenever they have their cards in their hand, there's this anticipation that they're about to win, right? And then, when they lay down, they get this surge of exhilaration that they won, but then when they get the money, they don't care anymore, right? Because it was all about that buildup and the win. And so for me, part of it is that anticipation that I'm about to nail this thing or I'm about to do whatever. I'm assuming that's kind of what you're after when you're out there, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think what you were just saying is like a good kind of metaphor for life. And how often do you hear it's all about the journey, but it really is.
Sure,
and that can kind of take some of the pressure off of nailing it. Like getting there is the exhilarating part. And then if you nail it, awesome. But if you don't, there'll be another chance. Yeah. It doesn't like, don't let that set you back. Don't let that like take you down. Again, I've let it take me down a bunch. I've had, losses where I'm like, God, this is the worst, but yeah, as long as you can keep looking for the next journey to whatever the next goal is, that's the good stuff.
Most of my successes are just me figuring out all the ways it can fail, and then eventually it just happens to work. So
yeah, you're setting expectations.
Yeah. Well, I learned the way to do things wrong a lot, and then I just you keep doing it until it starts working. That's kind of the story of my life for the most part. But
well, it's I'd been out here for like 3 years, and I had my first agent, and I remember being like, I'm gonna put together a tape for SNL, and I like put together the tape. My agent liked it, and she sent it off to SNL, and then they responded back, and they were like, "We liked this stuff, but send another tape and do it in a week, and show us that he can write stuff and characters like in a week." And again, I was 3 years out here. Like I sent that in, and I thought it was great. And then I went back like 3 years later and watched those tapes again, and I was like, "This is horrible." This is not like the final response was like, "He's not ready" or something like that. And at the time I was like, "I'm not ready? Screw you." But like I wasn't at all. I had to learn to fall on my face a couple times and then find some really proven good stuff.
Yeah, you had to find how. Yeah, so I did this thing called LinkedIn Learning. It's like their online education platform, whatever. But at one point, I had never done any education stuff, and they had convinced me to go out there and do it. And so, they first, so I was putting out YouTube videos and stuff, and then they were like, hey, we'd be interested for you there. And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, I'll talk to you, because I know it's not going to happen. That's the little voice in my head. It's not going to happen. So it's fine. And then they're like, send us a sample of you doing this. And so I did. And they're like, okay, we like that, and we're going to submit it to this other group. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And then it went through that, and they're like, all right, we're going to assign you a producer, and this is the course you're going to do. I was like, okay, great. I could do that, because it's, ultimately they're going to pull the plug. So well, here I am flying to LA to then go over to their studios, and I'm in the booth and I'm recording, and I'm terrified. Like, my hands are literally shaking and stuff. And I record on the first day, and I didn't exactly know how to make everything and do all that stuff. And so I get there, and then we start going through the first one, and they tell me everything that's wrong. And it's like, oh my God, I just want to disappear, go away, and fix everything. Just leave me alone. But they're like, no, we got to work through it. We got to work through it. So we worked through it. Subsequently, I stayed up till like 3 or 4 that night, fixing everything. And then, the next day we picked up. Well, on the third day, after we got done recording, I think it was right after lunch, they said, okay, my producer, Ray, she said, all right, I'm going to pull up your very first recording. You got to listen to this. And I go, we really don't have to listen to this. You don't have to do this. She goes, yeah, you do. And so she made me listen to about 15 seconds of it. And I was talking so fast, and my voice was like squeaking, like I was going through puberty. You could just, the fear was just so evident and on the surface. And then she goes, okay, now listen to what you just recorded. And it was night and day, man. It was just
in 3 days.
In 3 days. Because it was just, they're working with you for 7 hours as you're going through it, and a day, and you're just, everything changes so quickly when you have somebody there to. But it was just like, I 100% know what you mean. Like, I think there is even though it is scary and terrifying and nobody wants to do it, to look at where you started and where you've come, there's so much value in that. One, for confidence. Like, it made me feel so much better, and I have improved so much beyond even that point where I was. But reevaluating what you did, you could see how you could do it different. But I think sometimes you need distance, right? Because like you said, you just did it, and you're like, man, I nailed this. But until you get some distance from it, you don't really see.
Yeah, really. I that's a great story, and it's so true, and it's so it exemplifies, I think, what so many people go through. However, a lot of people would say after that first time, being like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I am going to shut off. I'm going to shut off. I don't want anybody to see me. I don't want to deal with it anymore. And they move on from it. But like, you stuck with it 2 days later. It's like night and day. It's like, that's crazy.
They flew my ass out there. It was like, where was I going to go?
Yeah, you had no choice.
Yeah, I was trapped. Yeah. But yeah, it's talk about discomfort. I felt like I had climbed a mountain at the end of that one. Like, it changed me as a human so much, just putting yourself out there in those situations, so cool. Being open to it.
Yes.
There was, who was it? I think it was Neil Armstrong said, your mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. So you have to be like open and available to that stuff that scares you, and give it a try. Maybe not hanging out at the airport at, in the middle of the night.
Yeah, nothing stupid.
But yeah. But yeah, that's just, it's like I find so much inspiration rather from folks that can regularly put themselves out there until, right, it's like the idea is it's not in your comfort zone, but if you stay there long enough, your comfort zone gets big enough to encompass it, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
For sure.
That's cool. So you talked about the groundlings, and you've got a lot of on your website, you've got a lot of the groundlings kind of skits on there. Yeah. And there was one that just murdered. I mean, it crushed me. It killed me. It was the, it was like the cooking for one. That one.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. That killed me. And then I brought my 15-year-old kid in here, and he was watching it, and then it just killed me all over again. And he was just dying. Oh, it was so good. Was that like a character that you put together and everything yourself, or how does that work?
Yeah, every one of those is a character that I came up with. We, once you get into the Sunday company, you write sketches all week, and then on Wednesday you get together, and for about 7 to 8 hours, you pitch your sketches. You go down the list and everybody pitches their sketches. The director will say, that's terrible, scrap it. Or they'll say, come over here, I've got some notes for you. And then you put on a brand new show every Sunday night. So I did that for 18 months. The only days off or weeks off we got were Christmas and New Year's. So it was every single week you're just writing and writing and writing and coming. And when you get to the point where you're like, I don't have any more characters. You're forced to just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And so yeah, I every one of those characters I came up with and wrote, and of course had help from that one. That 6 months was directed by Karen Maruyama, who has been working for a while, and she's an absolute sketch comedy genius. And I came in with that idea, but she like molded it to the place where it was like simple, straightforward. You knew what you were getting, and then you just build upon it as the sketch goes. But Karen is like, she's a guru. She's so funny and so smart, and was just the best director at the Groundlings by far.
That's amazing. All you have so many on there, and I was just laughing my butt off at all of them. But you were talking about how you write and write and write, and then eventually you, I guess you probably feel like you hit a wall. How did you break through it, man? Like, where did you go for inspiration?
You just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And I think that when you're in that mindset, things start to stand out to you more. Like you see somebody ordering coffee at a place and they do it in a weird way, and that sticks out to you. And then you say like, oh, I'm going to do a guy who says, a simple thing, like some weird catchphrase after everything they say. And then you think like, what does that guy do when he leaves the coffee shop? And where could I put him that, and then you come up with all these different ideas. And the vast majority of them are terrible.
Yeah.
Like in that 18 months, I feel like I left the Groundlings doing the best work that I could have done in that 18 months. Felt like I was always putting up strong shows, and every week I would have at least 90% of my stuff was like, no. But then you got 10% here, and then another 10% here, and then maybe 1 week you have a little more, and then 1 week and then you're building upon it, and then you have one idea that didn't work, but there was something about it that made the audience laugh. So you're building upon that, and it's like just a constant struggle, really. You don't get paid for it. You just are doing your time, Yeah.
Yeah, you're just putting in the work.
Yeah.
So what you were talking about when you're in that mindset, and that kind of goes back to like training yourself to be open and available to that. So I guess you sort of, when you put yourself in that place, you're unconsciously looking for any new thing that stands out, and it just, I guess, grabs you, huh?
Yeah, total. I mean, like, it's just popping in my head. Like, I was one of my good friends who I did the Groundlings with, Emily Goldwyn. She and I wrote a lot together, and there was one day where I saw some guy who I wasn't very close with. We didn't know each other that well. And I was like, hey, man, what's up? How you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Oh, well, I'm heading out. But it was so good to see you. And he left, and I was like, what the hell was that? And I said that to Emily, and she was like, well, we got to write a sketch about it. It's just like little things like that. It's like you pick up on the most minor things that people do that may mean nothing.
Right.
But we always project onto other people. Like, what does that mean? Why would I do something like that? And so we just wrote a sketch where we're like, it is so good. And we're with our significant others, and they're like, why is it so good to see them? But yeah, those are the great moments doing that. And during that, when I was doing Cooking for One, SNL came, and this is 6 years after I sent my initial tape in, and I did a showcase for them, and then they flew me out to New York, and I auditioned on the Studio 8H stage in front of Lorne Michaels and all the writers and producers and everything. Did 12 impressions and 6 characters, and they flew me back to LA. 2 weeks went by, didn't hear anything. Got a call. We want you to come back out, do a brand new set. I was like, guys, I gave you all my A material, so I don't know what you want me to do. But did it a second time, and then that didn't work out. But again, that was like an experience that was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I grew up watching reruns of SNL on Comedy Central when it was like the years of Phil Hartman and Dana Carvey and Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, all the greats, and yeah, it was like I was ready at that point. I had the stuff that I thought would work for SNL, and I don't think that I didn't get it because they were like, he's not ready this time. I think that it's much more of like, what do we need? What spots do we need to fill? And they had guys on the cast that could could play the political correspondent on Fox News or the angry dad or whatever. And so they didn't need me at that time. But, writing at the Sunday Company every single day allowed me to come in and say, oh yeah, you need me to come back in a week with a bunch of new characters and impressions. I can do that.
That's cool.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that process can be kind of brutal. Like you just go up there, you lay yourself bare, and then you usually don't get any critiques back, right? Like,
no,
could you change this? Could you do that? You just it's kind
you
of
hear you hear some laughs. I remember people say you don't hear any laughs or anything. I definitely got laughs, which I was like, that's great. But you see a little tuft of white hair and it's Lorne Michaels, and it's like, holy shit. And he's just watching you on a monitor and then watching you on stage and watching you on the monitor and watching you on stage and watching and not laughing and not laughing. It's like,
do you get starstruck still in that way?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I shot an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm last week.
Oh, wicked.
And Larry David's there, and it's like, this is Larry David. This guy is one of the great comedy creators of the last 50 years,
For sure.
Or ever, and of course I was starstruck. However, it's like you learn to stay in your pocket. Don't push, don't try too hard. Just serve the production or the scene or whatever you're doing. Just be there to serve whatever the best interests are of the project you're working on. That's what I did, and it paid off. I mean, we'll see. They could cut me out of the whole episode, but
but I guess that's kind of a good mantra for life, right? Just be a good servant, try and do your part as best you can.
Yeah, use whatever talents you have to serve whatever thing you're engaging in.
Yeah. Some people, that's something I always say. It's like, use whatever tools are available to you. Like if if you're very attractive, why not dress really nice? Use that to your advantage. You know what I mean? Or if you've got a certain attribute, or if you've got a skill, use that to the best of your abilities. Why hide that stuff?
Yeah.
You got it for a reason.
Exactly.
If you don't use it, you lose it. That's cool, man. That's
right.
Cool that you still get starstruck. So that means you're still present. You're still kind of there and in the moment. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely get starstruck, but I try not to act starstruck.
Right. Right.
And I think it's also like the way that I'm starstruck is more of like a respect for who the person is and the work that they've done. And now, 10 years in, knowing how much it takes to get something made or, get your voice to be heard on a large scale. So yeah, it's all about the respect, I think.
I like that. So you're talking about verse being heard on the large scale. And so you co-host a podcast called Walk You Out. about The Bachelor. So I listened to a couple episodes. I got to confess, I've never watched a single episode of The Bachelor, and I'm not terribly interested. But I think I'm going to keep listening to you guys talk about it, even though I don't have a clue what's going on, because it's just, you guys are entertaining. And for one, I think I could listen to you read the phone book. I really enjoy just hearing your stream of consciousness as you're going through stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really what made you think, hey, I want to do a podcast?
Well, I didn't really. It was like I started watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and I started just like doing Instagram stories about how ridiculous I thought the show was. And then I shot a little pilot and reconnected with Rochelle, who was also doing the pilot, and she just she had been working on another podcast about The Bachelor, and she left there and just kind of hit me up and said, would you want to do a podcast? Because I think it'd be good to have like a guy like you talking about the podcast, because you don't seem like the normal demographic that watches the show. And I was like, yeah, what the hell? Let's do it. So we just did it for the last 2 seasons, and it's really fun, and I don't take it too seriously. And Rochelle really is the brains behind it all. She handles everything, and she's basically to me just like, just show up, you know? So I've kind of lucked out in that way. But yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun.
Well, I think it's more than just jokes and stuff like that. You're actually like dissecting things, and you're kind of like applying emotional intelligence to what's going on.
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool.
It's emotional intelligence based on like relationships and like my experience with relationships, but also thinking about it from like the production standpoint of like what's really going on behind the scenes. Why are people acting in certain ways? Are they being manipulated and how that affects people's psyches and everything. It is, when you really get down into it, it is a very interesting show, and it's been on for so long, and the standards that it like supports or shows what we see in each episode and why we see it. You could talk about it for hours, which we do.
You should do. Yeah, because it's like they can tell almost any story they want in the edit, right? So why are they choosing to put this one together?
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you're so into reality TV.
Yeah.
You know, because it's probably like one of the least real mediums that exist. But
yeah.
But I love it. There's some of it that I like. So my wife and I were watching this show called The Circle. But we were watching the UK version. Okay. For whatever reason, I watched just a lot of British television. Okay. And I found a guy on there that, much like you, I was like, man, I would love to talk to that guy. And I ended up talking to that guy.
Oh, cool.
And he is a fascinating individual. He's very eccentric. Yeah. Let's just say that. Yeah, he's so fascinating. But he was talking about over there that there's a new law that if you are on a reality TV show, they have to give you like 18 months of like psychiatric care after the show ends.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. I was like, wow, because like I never understood like how much of a toll it could take until I started really like dissecting. Like if you imagine you are a nobody, I mean like just as far as like pop culture goes.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you are just thrust into the limelight, and then I'm sure like your social media blows up, you're getting all this attention, and then all of a sudden that craters like right after. That's got to be like devastating to people.
And I would guarantee that a lot of the messages you get are not supportive.
Oh, no.
They're negative.
Yeah.
The vast majority are negative. And it's, like, great. You have, 150,000 followers on Instagram now. But, like, how many messages are you getting that are just mean for mean's sake?
Right.
Like, that takes a toll on you. I mean, like, I don't understand the whole trolling thing. There's part of me that believes like these can't be real people. I don't know what's happening, but that would mess you up. Nobody goes on a reality show and thinks I'm going to be a complete jerk. I don't think. I would like to believe that at least. But I think that like people do get manipulated. I don't think, listen, I don't think everybody has like a heart of gold, but I don't think they would want to show that they don't have a heart of gold, but then they're manipulated in some way, or, living in a room where they can only see a couple people a day is going to drive you a little nutty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you watch these shows, you could tell that, like the producers will line up dominoes, and then what do you think is going to happen when they push you're going to follow in line, probably maybe not exactly what they had anticipated, but they're, they're just hoping for an explosive result. And man, that's got to be, especially like after the show, when you go and rewatch how you were manipulated like that, man, that's got to be tough. Well, one, just to know that like, oh, I am capable of being manipulated like that. That's got to suck.
Totally. I wouldn't want to be on one of those shows, because I know that afterwards I'd be like, God, I am easily manipulated. Like, I am gullible. Like, I need every April Fool's Day, I need to be like, John, it's April Fool's.
It is the freaking worst. I hate it.
I 5 people will get me on the same day. It's like, how can I not remember that?
Yeah, I get boned like that every time. But it's so interesting. I wonder, but then also I wonder what kind of people does a reality TV show attract, right? It's like
I agree.
People that heavily need validation, maybe, or you know what I mean? There's a hole missing somewhere, and they think this is going to fill it, and so they're already vulnerable in some way. And so I don't know, man. Like when I look at it through that lens, it's kind of depressing until I start really laughing at them, and then it's like, it's like
I kind of agree. I mean, listen, man. Like I really am impressed by people that have just not even bought into like the social media thing. Like 2 of my cousins are not even on Facebook or Instagram. They're just like, I'm just living my life, man. That's it. My wife can send photos to you guys so you guys can see what's going on with our kids and everything, but like I'm not posting stuff. And I'm like, that's got to lead to a healthier mental state. It has to. I mean, I'm like, I talked to a manager, and he was like, Johnny, you should just get on TikTok and do your impressions. And I was like, I don't want to be on TikTok. I don't want to do it. And then I got on there, and it's like, still, I'll post something and I'll be like, I wonder how many views it's got.
Yeah,
damn it.
You can't not.
And it's like, it's all relative too. It's like, there was some sketch I saw of 2 young girls, and they're like holding their phone, and one of them, it has like 100 likes or something, and her little thought bubble says, I wish I had more likes. And then like another girl is standing next to her, and she's looking at it, and little thought bubbles, or the bubble above the phone says 1 million likes, and she's thinking, I wish I had more likes. Right. It's like, it's never good enough.
Yeah. Especially those people, I think, that like attain some kind of like huge viewership, like they go viral on one, they're never gonna reach that high again. They'll always be chasing. That's tough.
It's like these like little jumps in serotonin that is like not good for our brain. It's like crazy.
They're just little, what do you call those, Skinner boxes?
Yeah.
Ugh, it's sad. It's like a
also
slot
the funny thing about the manipulation thing is that like I feel like it's almost the same as like if you're going to buy a car or lease a car. Like the dealership people really push it on you until you're like, I'll buy it. I'll buy it, But like it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I've done prank shows, and there have been ridiculous situations, and people are just like, if you're going to really tell me this is the reality of the situation, then I guess I'll just believe it, because if I don't believe it, it puts me in an uncomfortable place, and I don't want to be there.
Right. It's like,
yeah, Lisa Rinna is going to teach this cooking class, and she's going to act like a crazy person and throw things around, and you're going to believe it. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine, we believe it.
I guess it's that, it's that like unwritten social contract with you have.
Yes.
That we kind of abide by, especially when there's other people. We fall into like that herd mentality where we follow what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Like suddenly, oh, sure, this is normal. Yeah, everybody else is doing it.
No, it's scary. It's scary.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Some of it I can get into, some of it I can't. Some of it, like this Circle show, they keep coming up with like the most fascinating twists. Like I may have like I may care not like zero for any of the, because mostly I connect with people and their personalities, and kind of like that's what pulls me in. But like this new season, like nothing. Like I'm connected to nobody. But they keep just coming up with the most clever twist that I have to see how this plays out.
Well, I haven't seen it, so you may have just ruined my my weekend. And I'll be watching The Circle all weekend now.
I don't know about the U.S. one. I think my wife tried that one and just like it wasn't for her. But man, the U.K. one, especially season 2, it's like this guy Tim Wilson. He just pulls you in. It's so like the characters and personalities, and it's like people are starting to be mean to him. It's like, oh, don't you dare. Don't you be, because he's just like he's the innocent. He is he's almost like in every reality show, he is like the placebo that I've ever seen. He's like the only person that doesn't realize he's on a reality show. And so it's like, don't do it. Tim, don't do it. So
yeah. You're too pure.
Yeah. Don't hurt my boy. Anybody but my boy. Yeah. And then I talk to him, and he really is that guy. It's like,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah. But he's like, I've only watched up to episode 4, and it's like, don't watch anymore. Please don't watch anymore.
Oh no.
You're gonna be disillusioned. You're gonna have your heart broke. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
God bless him.
But I love hearing you talk about this stuff. Why aren't you doing more podcasts, man?
I haven't really had the opportunity. I haven't sought them out as much. It's interesting. Like I should think more about doing podcasts, because it hasn't really been in my I don't know, my atmosphere, I guess. Rochelle said to me, like, let's do this together, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I enjoy doing it. I love having these conversations, because I even start to like learn things about myself as I talk them out, and it gives you perspective on everything all over again. It's like, I try to keep a journal when I can. I think that's a great thing to do, just to keep things in perspective. But talking on a podcast does kind of the same thing.
Yeah, man, that's exactly why I do this thing. It's like I learn so much about myself through other people, and I pick up so many interesting things. So like this one, your fearlessness is somewhat tied to the support system you've had, and so like I made a note to myself, just be a better steward of the support you give to other people, right? Because it clearly makes a big difference, so it's like something I'm actually going to actively start attempting to do. I've always supported my kids, maybe too much sometimes. I need to feel that.
I don't know. I was pretty supportive as a kid, and I feel pretty good about it.
Well, my 15-year-old is he's rebelling against the world, I guess, right now. Only we are like so loose and lax that it's like he has nothing to rebel against, right? So he's like, why did you give me wheat bread? You don't understand anything about, what I mean? It's like he can't come up with anything tangible.
You give me too much freedom.
God damn it. Yeah. So it's this weird balance. We find ourselves as a tightrope with these knuckleheads. But
I get it. I mean, that's just your teenage years, though, right?
I guess so, man. I was apparently a abnormal. I just kind of did my own thing. But I think also, the Panty D we find ourselves in it's complicated for everybody. It has to have like greatly impacted you guys over there. It's like, what was your like going into it? I guess when we first started hitting lockdowns and stuff, like where was your head at on all that stuff?
To be honest with you, I was kind of like, oh, nice, get a little vacation.
Yeah, like, oh, it'll be a couple weeks and we'll be on the other side of this.
Well, I was also at the time working as an assistant to a psychiatrist who was a complete lunatic. And he wanted me to like come over to his house to work. And I was like, I don't want to come to your house to work. Like, I don't want to. When I come over there, we don't do any work. You just talk about like your shit, and it drives me bonkers. And he was crazy. And so, and So when we had the lockdown, I was like, I don't feel comfortable being in person.
You get to pull that card finally.
So that was good. And honestly, like doing that, like, and then I ended up quitting, and it totally changed everything. It opened me up completely. I like felt freedom. It was like getting out of a bad relationship. And things started to roll after that. Like jobs started to come in. I felt like inspired. And so that was great. That was like kind of what happened at the beginning of the lockdown for me, which was like a great thing.
Yeah, dude. I think any positives you can pull out, I am all for it.
Totally. And I really do look at that as a huge positive in my life. And I mean, thank God nobody close to me was affected by the virus, which also is a huge win, and very grateful for that. But it is, you start to feel kind of cooped up and not seeing people. I'm lucky that I have a great girlfriend, and I spent so much time with her, and our relationship, I think, got even stronger during it. But yeah, you just see like the same two people for a really long time. It starts to make you be like, what is life? I mean, like 2020 wasn't even like a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It wasn't even a year. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's what
it's just starting to open up, and you think to yourself, like, when am I going to see the bottom half of people's faces again?
Right. You know? It's like, this is ugly people's time to shine. Get out there. Yeah. you gotta see some stuff. I'll tell you what, like I was on a meeting one day, and I was like, it's crazy. I'm really starting to like enjoy my kids and stuff. I think I'm getting Stockholm syndrome. I'm just trapped in here for too long. It's just I know some people are trapped by themselves, but it's almost kind of a blessing to be by yourself occasionally.
Totally.
See the same people, you smell your same teenager's feet for 6 months straight. It's kind of it wears on you a little bit. So
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So I guess you're picking up some odds and ends jobs here to kind of bridge the gap between work and stuff, huh?
Yeah, doing some animation, some animated shows. I'm in a show right now that's on Sci-Fi. It's on tonight, Wednesday nights, called The Pole, which is not for children. But it's a really funny show set on the North Pole. My buddy who I lived on his couch when I first moved out to LA, he's the co-creator and writer of it. So that's cool how that's kind of come full circle, and I do a bunch of characters on that, and then working on a show that's hopefully will go into production soon. We'll see. And just auditioned for like 12 parts in another show that I had worked on before that's now been ordered for more episodes. So we'll see about that. And auditions are still happening, and just keep going forward. I'm gonna head, after we're off of this, I'm gonna go over to my buddy Michael Strassner's house, and we're working on a pitch for our sketch show that's on Funny or Die called Johnno and Michael Try, and I'm gonna try to sell that to be like a 30-minute show, and just doing everything I can.
Just never sitting still, right?
Never sitting still and just waiting for that AT&T commercial to pop back up on TV.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there, I was just, like kind of thinking about random questions and stuff. And a lot of people, I like to ask them, like, what, if there was like a dream project you could work on, like, what does that look like for you? Have you ever thought about it?
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about Curb is that it's like all improv. They have the outline for the scenes, and then they want you to just kind of play within the scenes. And I think that's really cool. I think that's also, from what I've heard, a lot of what Judd Apatow does. And I have become such I grew up on the Happy Gilmores and the Dumb and Dumbers and all of those movies, but I do really love the grounded films that are so based on the characters and the emotion of the characters that a Judd Apatow or a Paul Feig makes. I love those movies. I think, Paul Feig also incorporates the kind of crazy characters too. I think a dream project would be something that was directed by one of those guys or somebody like that, and that I could write. I think that Kristen Wiig wrote Bridesmaids. Amy Schumer has written, I Feel Pretty, and her what was her first movie that wrote that I'm blanking on right now. But the chance to write something and be mentored by somebody who I think concentrates on the most important things, the character and the emotion, that would be amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily really any medium, as long as it's a character that's based on the thoughts and feelings and emotions. Yeah,
like a real person who, there's so many funny things that happen every day. Like, and if you can get those things into a movie or a TV show, you got gold. It's the stuff that everybody that can relate to, but it's coming from your specific experience. That's the best stuff.
That's cool. That's an idea funneled through your view on the world, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Man, I dig that. I like that. Well, dude, we're getting pretty close to the time, and I wanna respect your time for sure. So yeah, man, you were everything I had expected to be. Just like a super grounded guy. Something you said in like one of your I think the last episode of your Walk You Out podcast kind of like stuck with me. I was like, man, I know, because you were talking about how the feelings and the thoughts of the characters is what was like, should be driving them in some various way. And I was like, man, he gets it. Yeah, he just definitely gets it. So I like literally I could listen to you talk about just about anything, I think, because like when we started talking about reality TV show, you kind of came alive there. And I would love to hear more of you talk about anything. So definitely think about podcasting, dude. It is my medium of choice. I love storytellers, and it's obvious that you're one of those. So
thank you, Greg.
First, I want to say, you have a website and you have socials, and I just want people to know what they are and how you'd like them to interact with you if they chose to do so. What's your favorite medium?
I really am actually having a blast on TikTok right now. I really am.
As much shit as you just talked.
I'm doing a new impression every day, and people will just give me suggestions. People are like, "Hey, can you do Tom Hanks dropping a foul ball at a baseball game?" I'm like, "Yes, I can do that," and I really enjoy that. But I love hearing from people. And you can just find me at Johnno Wilson on all platforms, on Instagram, TikTok. My website is JOHNNO Wilson with one L. And yeah, I Instagram, TikTok, my website, all that stuff. I love to hear from people. So yeah.
Rock and roll. Well, I guess if you guys have any questions or comments, shoot them my way. If you've got anything for Johnno, you know how to find them. And thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. Let me hit stop on all this stuff.